Hello, human. Welcome back to another A Cult of Misfits. I'm Matt Owens. If you feel like you don't really fit in with any particular religion or spiritual group or community like me, consider A Cult of Misfits. If you enjoy listening to things about the esoteric, talking about consciousness and spiritual awakening and the inner transformation and the nature of reality, or even the Anunnaki, check out my podcast, A Cult of Misfits. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube and wherever fine podcasts are found. Today, I want to talk about how it's okay to have a bad day, how not everything has to be love and light all the time. I want to talk about failure and the growth that comes alongside failure. I want to talk about the matrix and how to escape the matrix if you're interested in such things. And I also want to talk about cataclysms on this planet. So it's going to be a real positive, uplifting, cataclysmic episode that we're going to talk about today. So I started thinking today about just this spiritual awakening and consciousness and expansion and going within. And at the core of a lot of this is our mind, our own perceptions and filters that we have, that we've constructed for ourselves, right? That we believe is the truth, that we believe is reality until we start diving a little bit deeper and looking behind the curtain and saying, oh, these are just constructs of my mind. I just believe these things because, well, I guess I just believe these things. And so I realized that for my own spiritual growth and my own path that I found myself on, that a lot of this has to do with learning to train my mind not to be so reactive, train my mind when it comes to my emotions and my responses and my belief systems, and sort of reshaping and reframing how I decide to live my life every day, and that all of these things are all highly programmable. I started realizing that as a human, we're all highly susceptible to suggestion. And because of that, I've come to believe certain things in my life, certain things about myself. You know, we often listen to the voice in our head, which I call Hal. Hal's always telling me I'm not good enough, or I can't do this thing, or that's impossible, blah, 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 blah. So it's all about training Hal, training my mind to let go of control, right? To stop being so scared all the time. So that's what I want to talk about today. When I first started my spiritual journey, learning about spirituality and karma and, all the hippie things, I felt like everybody was talking about positivity. You got to be positive, you got to change your mindset. And so I felt like I would try my hardest to be positive and uplifting and rainbow and sunshine all the time. And anytime that I wasn't being positive, I found that I was beating myself up. Like I'm not doing a good job being spiritual enough, right? I'm not good at this thing. I started listening to Hal again, telling me that I couldn't do these things, right? I'm really bad at meditation. I can never do this. I'm not cut out for this sort of thing, right? And so anytime I would have a bad day or I woke up just really grumpy, right? I would feel like I was doing a bad job at this whole positivity, love and light thing, right? Like maybe I'm not cut out to be spiritual because I'm not good at this because here I am grumpy again, or fallen into a deep depression again, right? Or I'm stressed out to the max again. But it's a part of my journey has been learning to forgive myself, right? To be a little kinder with myself and my journey and how I'm doing, right? Not to compare myself to others, right? These are all things I had to learn. But a large part of that was learning to embrace the grumpiness, to embrace the depression or the anxiety or whatever it is that's causing me discomfort, right? Because as humans, we often want to get away from that discomfort. We don't like that, push it away, bury it, get rid of it, don't think about it, don't talk about it. But often the universe will bring it back into our lives, these cycles over and over and over again, because we're meant to deal with it. And I think ultimately we're meant to deal with the things that make us uncomfortable by doing the things that make us uncomfortable. I found that in my own life, when I pursued these things that made me uncomfortable, that brought me discomfort, pain, you know, that the more that I went through that fire, that it became easier to deal with the next time it came around. That's where this training, this practice comes in, right? Just baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. And so I spent so much time trying to get myself into a good mood. If I was grumpy, for example, rather than just embracing that I'm grumpy, rather than blaming it on the person who pissed me off, or the television, or the noise, or the kids, or the news, or the government, or whoever you want to blame it on, right? Blaming your grumpiness on what I ate last night for dinner. Too much sugar. But learning to just embrace it and say, you know what? It's all about balance. If you're all love and light all the time, if you're all positivity and rainbows and unicorns all the time, that's imbalanced. I didn't know that. I had to learn that for myself. But that's also about embracing the darkness, embracing the shadow, embracing the parts that you don't want to embrace initially, right? I didn't. Those parts of myself are yucky, scary, gross, undesirable. I don't want to talk about those parts of myself. I don't want to love and embrace those parts of myself. I hate those parts of myself. But it was about rewiring that, reprogramming that, and telling myself a new script, right? That these are aspects of me. And all aspects of me are aspects of the divine. So when I'm hating on myself, I'm hating on the divine, right? Rather than loving and embracing it. It's okay to be imbalanced sometimes. I know it feels wobbly. I know it's scary, but that's also part of it. It's learning to be, it's accepting and becoming comfortable in the things that make me uncomfortable. Not wallowing in it and, oh, the grossness, but just like saying, you know what, I'm really in a bad mood today. Maybe I'll be in a bad mood tomorrow, but tomorrow's not here yet, and I'm just gonna roll with it. Okay. Maybe I need to take a nap. Maybe I need to just stay out from public for a while. you know, just to accept it. Because I found that when I was trying to change it, I'm in a bad mood. I got to get into a good mood. I got to get into a good mood. I got to try to turn this ship around, right? That's resistance. That was really that didn't work very often. I found in my own life. Anytime I kept trying to change my depression or trying to get happy, whether that was through alcohol or food or marijuana or any number of things, right? Watching Netflix, whatever, right? Got to get in a good mood. Got to buck up. Got to put on a happy face, right? I spent my whole life wearing all of these masks, trying to be who I wasn't, trying to pretend that I was happy when I wasn't, right? Social engagements as an example, right? I put on this face. Oh, hi, I'm happy to be here at this party, everybody, right? I love all the energy here in the room, right? I'm very introverted for those of you that don't know me. So I'm being sarcastic when I say, like, I put on this mask trying to be Mr. Social butterfly, right? Trying to engage in small talk that I absolutely hated, just trying to fit in, right? Don't want to be the weirdo in the corner, right? Don't want people to judge me. So I got to try to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. But I've been really learning and practicing embracing who I am. That's what a part of this is as well. It's just saying, you know what? I am the weirdo in the corner. I'm not a very social person. Sometimes I am. It's not black and white, right? Sometimes I'm down to party. Guys, I know that I sound super cool when I say I'm down to party like that. But I've been really learning to embrace who I am, accepting who I am, accepting what I like and don't like, and being okay with that, right? And part of that is accepting that, you know what, sometimes I get a little bit down, I get a little depressed, I go through these phases, right? And rather than expending and expelling all of this energy trying to get in a good mood, trying to turn the ship around, it's wasted energy. I end up more exhausted than if I just leave it alone. Let it be, let it dissolve when it's meant to dissolve. Don't try to fix it, right? Accept the uncomfortability. And it's all practice, right? It's so easy to beat yourself up when you don't see the result you want right away, right? Oh, I'm so bad at this. That's fine. Be bad at it. That's okay too. You don't have to be an all-star. It's not a competition. These are things I had to tell myself. And maybe it helps for you to hear it as well. The voice in my head, Hal's always telling me what a failure I am, what a bad job I'm doing. I'm never going to be able to conquer this or master this or train my mind. But a part of this journey has been learning to embrace and accept failure. And even deeper and beyond that is not even labeling something as failure, right? Because when you fail something, it's just you're just falling short of these expectations that you built up for yourself in your own head. Right? So when you fail at the diet or fail at trying to quit smoking or fail at trying to rebalance this part of your life or whatever it may be, rather than seeing these things as failures at what a piece of shit I am and how I'm no good at it, what I started telling myself, and it may help you, I just started saying, there is no failure, there's only growth, right? Everything that happens to me is a growth opportunity. And then it turns into a thing where I can now become thankful for it. I can thank the universe, the mechanisms of the universe, this cosmic river that we're in. I can become thankful for all of these opportunities that are offering me growth for my soul, for my spirit, for the essence of who I am, the divinity that I am at the core of me. So I choose to reframe it, reprogram it in a way that everything is positive for me. Everything is a growth opportunity for me. Doesn't mean that it's not challenging, doesn't mean that it's not going to be frustrating or scary or difficult. It's going to probably be all of those things. But I choose to view it differently. I choose to view it all as growth. Philosophically, I started thinking a few years ago as I was starting this path, I was like, what would it be like to have no bad days? Like, what would that look like? And I started realizing as I started getting deeper and deeper into this stuff that it's all a matter of our mind. It's all a matter of our own perspectives. And so if you choose to view something as bad, then it will be bad. Right? The example is if you get fired from your job, people's first response is often, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. That's terrible. What an awful situation. That's probably scary." And it's all of those things if you choose to view it that way, right? But if you choose to view it as, you know what? I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. The things that happen to me are happening to me for a cosmic reason, a divine purpose that I can't necessarily understand or comprehend from my current vantage point. But you know what? I kind of did hate my job. I kind of did hate my boss. I know that I wasn't really meant to be there, but I really wasn't looking for other jobs because I was too scared to do so or whatever the reason is, right? It's usually about money, stability, something, some sort of belief that you told yourself, right? This is all just an example. For example, you can say, "Well, I know I got fired, but maybe it was the one thing that lit a fire under my ass, and now I'm going to start pursuing what I meant to be doing, right? Pursue the career that I always kind of wanted for my life, or maybe to go back to school and learn something that I've kind of always that my heart is pulling me towards, right?" You can see that getting fired from a job might be a blessing in disguise, right? You can choose to view it as negative, or you can choose to say, "Well, you know what? Maybe this is the catalyst I needed in my life. So thank you." Thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you, Sky Daddy, whoever's looking out for me. So it's all about just reframing how you view things. So theoretically, you could never have a bad day if you just choose not to view things that happen to you as bad, which I've done in my life, right? I started playing with that to great results, right? I've had many things in my life that looking in from the outside, you might say, "Wow, that sucks, dude." That's really terrible. I'm sorry to hear that. Or like, "That's really rough what you're going through." But if I choose not to believe that, I say, "Well, I understand why you see it that way, but I choose to see it as a growth opportunity. I choose to see it as it's making me stronger, right? It's enriching my soul. And I choose to celebrate that. It may be a temporary setback, it may be something that's difficult, but I'm going to get through this. And I'm going to look back on these times or whatever happened to me or is happening to me. And I'm going to be so thankful that I went through it. So thankful that there was just another opportunity for me to learn and to grow and to expand and to dive deeper into who I am and to dive deeper into this experience, right? It's all about changing your mindset. So this is just some of the things that I've started to do to just, and I found that in doing it, I've just found more peace in my life, right? Not every day, obviously. There has to be that balance. I mean, I know it sounds nice to just live in peace and love and joy and happiness all the time, but we're that's not what this realm is about. And wanting to change it and have life be different for you, well, that's going to cause a lot of suffering. It did in my life. When I was like, well, I wish my life was like that, and how come I can't have this going for me and that going for me? How come this can't be different? Or that's not being content with what you currently have. That's not being thankful for the things that you currently have in your life. Rather than focusing on all the things that I don't have in my life, that's a waste of energy. And that it literally does nothing for me. And so I just have to recognize as part of my core base foundational beliefs that everything is happening for a reason. Everything that I currently have in my life today, now in this moment, is exactly what I need. I have everything I need right now. If I needed something else, it would be here. That's how the universe works. The things that I don't have in my life, I don't have for a reason. And I may or may not understand that reason at this point in time. It's just about having faith and trust in a higher hand guiding and leading me, taking me where I need to be, removing the things from my life that are no longer serving me. I've learned when I get that intuitive nudge in my heart and my gut, whatever you want to say, to drop something out of my life or drop a person out of my life or a habit or a cycle or a pattern out of my life that's no longer serving me. I found it's a lot easier to just drop it when the universe tells me to. I'm getting better and quicker on the uptake as I practice this to listen to the intuitive hit and then drop it. Because I found that when I don't drop it and I cling on to it, whatever it is that I don't want to let go of, whether it's a person, a relationship in my life, or a concept, or a belief, or cigarettes, or whatever it may be, letting go of this thing that I love, that I think that I need to attach to, that I think is a part of me, that I've told myself I need in my life. Just a story. I found that the things that I refuse to let go of due to fear, the universe has a way of removing it from my life one way or another. And I found that and I don't say that to be scary or say like you better or else, but I've just found that it goes a lot smoother, right? Not completely smooth always, but it goes smoother when I release it myself rather than the universe releasing it for me. Because at that point I've let it fester too long. It's good. The energy is off, and it needs to wither away and die, and it's going to be taken from us one way or another. So I'd rather just let it go, right? And it's practice, 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 practice. I was very bad at this when I first started, right? But it's just about practicing. I was bold enough to ask the universe to intentionally give me these experiences in my life that are challenging so that I can have I just want to speed up this process of like I want to learn the lesson as quickly as possible because that's less suffering for me. So if I can get through it and move through the lesson ASAP, that's great. And sometimes some of these lessons are meant to be marinated. They're meant to take a while, right? And that can be a challenge in itself as well, but it's all part of the challenge. It's all part of the lessons. It's all part of the growth. And so I believe that the mind is so important to gain. I don't like using the word control because I don't want to control anything in my life, but just training my mind to believe differently, right? To think differently. I talked in previous episodes, if you're interested, about the Matrix. I often talk about how I believe that we're living in some sort of a simulated reality. And this isn't just a new Silicon Valley, tech idea. I've really dug into this, and I've really looked into the nature of reality and like what the heck is going on around here, and what is the evidence pointing towards this whole thing being an illusion or a dream or a virtual reality situation. And I'm pretty convinced that that's what's going on. And so I try to live my life based on that framework, right? I start talking about like, what's the deal with the aliens, interdimensional beings, the nature of the universe, and God and good versus evil, and the Anunnaki and our origin story and the weirdness behind the pyramids. All of those things are so fun to talk about and dive into and philosophize about. But at the end of the day, I have to say my core belief is there's a very high probability that none of this is real, right? Now it's real to us that are experiencing it. Sure, I'm not. It's not to say that it has no meaning. I think that there is a meaning, a deeper spiritual meaning behind all of it. But I don't think that this place is real in a way that we think that it is. That it has the meaning and the substance that we think that it does. And I've talked about it in previous episodes, so I don't need to dive into it all the time. But there's just a lot of the ancients all talk, not all, but many of the ancients talk about this concept that this is not the real base reality, um, that this is just sort of matrix means womb in Latin. Like we're just sort of in this weird womb, this bubble reality that is not quote unquote real life. And so when I talk about things like aliens or the pyramids or whatever, I have to say like, well, but at the end of the day, there's a real possibility that none of it is actually real. Right. I know that many of us as humans, I went through this myself, where we're just looking for a savior to save us, to take us out of this hell, right? Out of this challenging, difficult place that we found ourselves in, this earth school, or this hole of suffering, depending on your perspective, but maybe all of the above, right? But I think that there is a way to sort of transcend or to escape, depending on your perspective, this realm, this matrix, this womb, this bubble of reality that we're in. And if you wonder how to escape from it, you just go back to the ancient scriptures and say what the ancients have to say on the matter, right? And there's just sort of this general consensus across the board. Oftentimes, when you start looking into these things, where this commonality, these things that just sort of say like, none of this is real. We're going to keep reincarnating until we come to certain realizations where we can break free from this cycle of reincarnation, of coming back to earth until we free ourselves, rather than looking for a savior to save us, whether it's Jesus Christ coming or the aliens saving us or interdimensional beings or the Pleiadians or maybe even the Klingons. I hope the Klingons are not our saviors, because that's going to be a rough. But I got my batleth ready just in case. Just in case. If you're not a Star Trek fan, you have no idea what the heck I'm talking about, and that's okay. That's okay. I can't speak to everybody, guys, but this is for the select few who are Star Trek fans like myself. But I start looking at some of the ancient wisdom about like, okay, let's just say that maybe we are stuck in this cycle, and let's not even call it stuck, right? That insinuates it's something negative or bad that's happening to us, or we're trapped, or we're imprisoned. Those are all negative connotations. But let's take the emotion out of it and just say like we're here. Right? Let's not blame those interdimensional beings that came from the heavens, according to the Mesopotamians and the Egyptians, that came to enslave us, or perhaps take our gold, or whatever they believed. Um, but there's just a lot of talk about how to escape from this reincarnation cycle, and one of the ways is to recognize that we are all one, that everything in the all that is, all of this reality, is all one. It's all, all of creation, the the great consciousness or whatever. And so once you start to realize that all is one, once you start to sort of lose your fear of death, right? Sort of facing your fears is a part of this process of enlightenment, of freeing yourself from the weight of our own fears, our own stories that we tell ourselves in our minds, our own limiting beliefs, right? And I started asking myself, do I believe that there is life after death? The answer was yes. Do I believe that there is a higher being out there, whether it's my higher self or a god or a being that I can't comprehend? Yes. And so if I believe that there is life after death, that this is not true life, that I believe that this is just maybe a practice arena of sorts, then why am I so scared to die? Why am I so scared of my loved ones to die? If none of this is real, if there is an afterlife, if our souls continue in a way that the ancients tell us it does, then why am I so scared of death all the time? I had to start analyzing this in my life because it's so interwoven into us to have this fear of death, right? But once I started facing my fears on this journey, including the fear of death, it started dissolving for me because I started realizing like there's nothing to be scared of, right? Life just continues once this physical form of mine dies, then like that's great. Theoretically, I've been told from those that are wiser than me, the ancients, that say like there's nothing to worry about, right? This human lifetime is the blink of an eye. So don't worry about it, bro. So I started getting into that mind frame of just not fearing death, right? That it's not the end. Also, duality is a huge part of this matrix consciousness that we get trapped in. We trap ourselves. There is no savior to come save us. You say we are our own savior, right? We're giving our power away to something on the external, something that doesn't actually exist in reality. The only thing that exists is you, the divinity that you are. And so duality is a big story that we tell ourselves. Us versus them. I'm on this team, they're on that team. These are my beliefs, your beliefs. Your beliefs are wrong, my beliefs are right. They're the bad guys, I'm the good guy. I'm on the good team, not the bad team. They're evil. These are all dualistic thoughts, and there's nothing right or wrong about any of these things. But the ancient wisdom, they all talk about freeing yourself from this dualistic mentality, right? This binary black and white, rather than recognizing the unity of everything, the all that is. That your opinion and my opinion are both opinions on the same coin. We're all talking about the same thing. We're all different aspects of the all that is. And once you start getting yourself into this frame of mind, training your mind to see things this way, breaking free from the old conditioning, we're so dualistic. It goes real deep. But it's about it's a giant knot, and I just am slowly in my own mind untangling this knot of duality, right? Which team are you on? Which side are you on? Are you pro Russia or pro Ukraine? Right? You're either the good guys or the bad guys. And I think that once you can free yourself from that, you can see things from the higher perspective. And you can see all the sides and not feel yourself attached to any of them. I'm just speaking for myself. I had heard the ancients talking about this, especially the Eastern philosophies and religions, talking about freeing yourself from this duality. And I've been playing with it a lot and applying it to my life daily. And these are the outcomes. I feel like I can rise above when I have a a political debate with somebody, for example. I don't even have a position. I'm really just interested in hearing their perspective, and I don't attach to either side. Like, oh, that's interesting. I can see why you say that. I can see why you believe that. When I first started this journey of mine in the early days in 2020, when I sort of my eyes were opened, um, I started looking into things like, I started Googling things like, why do some people think the earth is flat? Right? I had never thought to look into something like that because those people are idiots. Why would you have such a moronic thought? I'm not going to even waste my time looking into it because it's idiotic, as I know many people believe. But then once you start shifting your perspective and saying, well, I just want to know why they think that. I'm just curious why they have that perspective. I don't have to attach to it. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to say they're wrong. I just going into it with an open mind and an open heart. Why do some people believe that? Why do some people believe the moon landing was faked? Why do some people think 9/11? Why does just on and on and on? Why do some people think? And I don't have to, I went into it just thinking like, well, let's just see what they have to say. And some of them I was like, oh, wow, I have never seen it that way before. I wasn't aware of that. And you really changed my perspective on a lot of things when I start diving down these rabbit holes. Often I would look at them and say, that's ridiculous. I don't agree with that, but that's okay that they believe that. I don't have to believe that it's right or wrong. I just think that it's hogwash. you know, I don't have to attach to anything that I don't want to attach to. Freeing myself, it's freeing. I'm all about freedom in my own life, right? Cultivating this freedom of not feeling the need to attach to any of these things, right? Well, what's your belief system? Well, today this is what it is. It might change and shift tomorrow or next week, and that's okay. I don't define myself by these beliefs. I don't define myself by which team I'm on, right? And so, for those of you that believe you're in a matrix, for those of you that think you've taken the red pill, I have to say, I believe that as well. I take the red pill. I can see things for how they truly are. Fine, fine, fine. But if you're still attached to a political ideology, if you're still attached to they are evil, they are drinking adrenochrome, right? They are the evil elite, they are demonic, they are the bad guys. If you have any of these beliefs in your heart, you are stuck in a dualistic trap of your own device. And so, if you're interested in freeing yourself, I'm just offering suggestions that I've done in my own life. You don't have to listen to it or believe it. I don't care one way or the other. I'm showing you my notes. This is what I did in my life to free myself from duality, and I feel great. Right? Because when I was living dualistically, when my mind goes to a dualistic place, it's not gone permanently. It's a constant skills sharpening for myself. I constantly have to say, nope, nope, detach. We don't do that anymore. Detach, detach, detach. And so when my mind starts going to a dualistic place, and I start attaching myself to one thing or another, it just creates more suffering. Because then I feel like, let's just talk about politics. If I latch onto one side of things politically, then I'm constantly feeling the need to defend myself to other people, to show other people how they're wrong and I'm right, to show other people the light, to plant a seed. This is all control. They're all control mechanisms. I'm trying to control things. I'm trying to control what they believe because I ultimately want them to change their mind. I want to try to convince them that I'm right and they're wrong. Why am I trying to control that? Right? Who's to say I'm right? Who's to say they're wrong? It's all perspective. And so once I drop it, and let it go, I free myself from that. And I no longer have to defend my position or my stance on this or that, or to start quoting my sources or, well, I heard that you're wrong. And the numbers actually show this. Who cares? Who fucking cares? This is where I had to get myself to is who fucking cares what the numbers are? Who cares if I'm right? Why do I have to convince people that I'm right? Let go of that. And when I did, my life got simpler, easier, smoother. I was no longer defending myself all the time. That's exhausting. You know how much time I spent when I was on Facebook or social media in general? You know how much time I wasted defending my position in the comments section of some stupid fucking post? Why am I doing that? That creates suffering for myself, and I'm trying to reduce suffering in myself, in my life, in my mind, right? Why do I need to defend these things? Why do I need to convince people? I let it go. This is how I escape the matrix. So if you are finding yourself overly attached to something like this, of a political nature, for example, or big pharma, I had a lot of opinions about big pharma, and what products of theirs that we shouldn't be using, the products that are quote unquote bad. Right? That's just a perspective. That's just my perspective. Why does that have to be right or wrong? I can see things the way I see things. Why am I trying to make you see things my way? Right? It's freeing to just let go of these things. This is, I feel like this is the path to enlightenment. This is what the ancients are all talking about, right? And so if all of this is just a practice realm where things maybe aren't as serious as we think they are, that we've been told by our parents, by community, by government, by our ancestors, whatever, right? If none of this really matters in the way that we think it does, and this is just for the experience itself, for the enrichment of our soul, if this is the point of all of this, then I had to start analyzing it, and I started taking more calculated risks in my life. I started stepping outside of my comfort zone a little more often and a little more often and then a lot more often, and then that just became my new modus operandi, is stepping outside my comfort zone. That's just what I do. But I had to start getting used to it, getting, like jumping into a freezing cold swimming pool. Like I want to get acclimated. Right? I want to get used to this process. Because if I jump into the pool in the deep end and it's freezing cold, well, I'm going to get out ASAP and I'm never going in that stupid pool again. So I had to like take a deep breath and let's come at this from a different angle. Let's just stick our big toe in the water, right? One little bit at a time. So I started recognizing that I often was rewarded when I stepped outside my comfort zone, rewarded by the universe, not just monetarily or physically, but just for the enrichment of my soul. There was growth, right? I felt empowered when I started doing it because I would face my fears, step outside of my comfort zone, doing things that scared the shit out of me, knowing that if I stayed in that uncomfortability long enough, it would no longer bother me anymore. And also recognizing that there's mechanisms in the universe that I can't fully comprehend, that there's a divine hand looking out for me, guiding me, picking me up when I fall, right? Leading me in the right direction. And so I realized I had all of these forces that were helping me in a benevolent way, even when I took these calculated risks that my intuition is telling me to take, right? That scared me. And now that I've gotten in this habit of just leaping off of the cliff metaphorically, knowing that I'm taken care of no matter what, following my intuition, life has just gotten simpler for me, less stressful. Now that I know that when I take these right now when I take these leaps of faith, there's still a little bit of a in my gut, right? It's like there's still a part of me, the reptilian part of my mind, or Hal, that's like no, 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 and I just have to say bye and take the leap. And it empowers me because it goes against Hal, the voice in my head telling me that I can't do it. And I'm like, oh really? That's funny. Watch this. Bye. And then I jump off the cliff and I'm like, see, I can do anything. And then I make it. I survive. I might have bumps and bruises or scrapes, right? But at the end of the day, I made it. And so then next time when I'm asked by spirit to step outside my comfort zone, I'm like, yep, I know that I can do it. So here we go. Let's do it again. This is going to be challenging. It's going to be scary. It's going to be hard. Here we go. Let's do it. Because for me, this is how I'm escaping from the matrix. I don't want to be tied to that stuff anymore. So for those of you waiting for the mothership to come down and save you, I don't believe that's going to happen. I believe you have to save yourself first, and then you are worthy of what is beyond. I feel like that's how we become worthy of the new earth or the 5D or the new reality or whatever you want to call it. And this is how we free ourselves, by getting to that frequency. I think there's a level of frequency, and if you're stuck in duality, you're stuck in a lower frequency. That's what I've been shown. That's what I've seen in my own life. And I think that just a part of the natural ascension process is going through those is going through duality and then transcending duality, right? And we live in a dualistic world. It's not easy, but it's about living in the world and not of the world, to transcend it in your mind, in your own mind. This is all a product of our minds. That's what's so hard and yet simple to understand and to do, is that this is all you. I know sometimes that you don't want to hear that. I didn't. I wanted to blame somebody else or blame. No, no, it's them. They're the reason why I'm so dualistic. They're the reason. They're the bad guys. It's like, yeah, okay. Until you realize that that's not the case. Until you realize it's all in your dang head. And so I feel that this may be my last incarnation, my last round, because but who knows, right? I certainly don't think that I've reached the mountaintop or like, oh guys, I've reached nirvana. Like, bye, enjoy your sucky lives down, in the 3D. No, no. I think that there's just a constant unfolding for perhaps eternity. Our souls are just constantly going through these experiences to enrich and to unfold and to go deeper and to ultimately to close that gap of separation that has been created between us and the all that is. Right. I've been thinking a lot about cataclysmic events to shift gears to to a real fun topic. When I started looking into the earliest known written records are ancient Mesopotamia in Iraq and Iran. That's why I talk about it so much, because I really want to go back to our origin stories. Like, where do we come from? Who created us? Right. Ultimately, if it's all just a simulation, then the answer is, well, nobody did. But let's just talk about it like it's real. Um, there's these stories of these cataclysms. The story of the Great Flood crosses all the continents, have origin stories of a great flood, and and stories of these great cataclysms that happen across the planet. And they are often great resets, according to the ancient stories, where the population on Earth got to be too much, and they were disrespecting the planet. And I see a lot of these cycles and patterns happening again in our current times, right? And so when you start looking at the ancient origin stories and how the gods became upset with these humans and wiped them off the face of the planet, or tried their best to, there was always a sneaky little god that came along and helped out humanity behind the scenes with a boat, an ark, often. Um, so we're not completely wiped from the planet every time, but there's often this story of a mass reset, and it's not always just a great flood. There's other talks of other great cataclysms. The Sumerians, who are also in ancient Mesopotamia, the earliest writings, this is like 6,000 years ago, are when mainstream scholars and mainstream scientists say that civilizations just suddenly popped up 6,000 years ago. So um, I've talked about that. There's a lot more to dive into, obviously, there, but I've talked about that previously if you're interested in checking out other episodes. But um, there have just been stories of, evil winds, an evil wind coming through and causing great destruction across the planet, or just geologically, just mainstream geology shows us that there's these giant cataclysms that happen on the planet on a fairly regular basis, cosmically, geologically speaking, over the course of millions and billions of years and hundreds of thousands of years. These things happen fairly frequently. So if it's not a flood, then there are these giant super volcanoes that come up, like the one in Yellowstone, or the ones that have happened over the course of millions of years on this planet, that will often expel all of this, earth and dust and ash into the air, and completely blocking sunlight on the planet for years or decades, and reducing the population of the wildlife on the planet, including humanity, down 80% or whatever. So these things happen fairly regularly. And I've also been looking into the magnetic poles, and how there's a lot of just this is just mainstream scientific evidence about the poles flipping, the north and the south pole flipping directions, flipping polarities, or there's even evidence that perhaps the Earth itself during these times can get knocked, 90 degrees one way or the other, like it can flip on its side, and all this cataclysmic crazy stuff, right? And so the poles have been shifting greatly. What happens with the poles, this is again just mainstream stuff. What happens is there's usually a wobble that starts. The magnetic poles start wobbling, 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 and the wobble gets bigger and bigger and bigger until whoop, finally it just flips and everything goes wonky. And then eventually it whoop, flips back to itself again. And this happens in regular cycles. Nobody really knows for sure the mechanisms or what causes it. Many people think that, or there's scientists that think that perhaps it has to do with the solar cycles that we don't fully understand or comprehend yet. But there's these cycles and patterns, yugas, as they talk about in the Hindu, and just these cycles and patterns that the Mayans talk about, and these solar patterns and magnetic patterns that just and cycles that happen over and over and over again. And it's about recognizing these patterns and um, in a way preparing for them and recognizing that they're going to come around again, right? That we have these periods of warmth on the planet, and we have periods of cold on the planet, periods of darkness on the planet, periods of prosperity on the planet. And and so I sort of wonder, these ancient civilizations sort of, in a way, I believe, warned us about these things. And I often talk about Göbekli Tepe. Mainstream science thinks that civilization started 6,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, like I just mentioned. But fairly recently, in the last several decades, there was a new site that was discovered in Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey is a big deal because there's now evidence that it goes back 10 or 12,000 years, pushing back when mainstream scholars think that civilization started. So they see this evidence in Göbekli Tepe in Turkey of civilization. These temples that they created had advanced knowledge of astrology and the stars and the movement of the planet, and specifically, mathematically directed towards this star. That, I think it was the Sirius star off the top of my head, but it sort of pushes back. There was they were drawing these symbols that scholars didn't think people that far back knew how to do. It was perfectly aligned with things, and what it insinuates is that there was a great cataclysm of asteroids or meteors that came to the planet. They even have specific dates on these giant stone, structures. These megalithic structures that were created across the world, but specifically at Göbekli Tepe, that warn perhaps of something coming from the sky. These cataclysmic events that came from the sky. And then you start looking also in Turkey and other places around the world, but mostly in Turkey, in that area, there are a lot of these super elaborate tunnel systems. Um, that really nobody really knows how the f they did it, because they're very complicated and complex and advanced in how they carved out of the material. Now the material wasn't super hard material. It was I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's like hardened ash, so it's somewhat soft. But they dug through these tunnels. They had ventilation systems and rooms for like livestock. Like these systems of tunnels and caves go down often like 20 stories down, like an absolutely ridiculous amount of complexity. And they had running water, groundwater, these underwater rivers that would be their source of fresh and clean water. Like, it's pretty crazy, and there's evidence pointing to these systems getting more and more complex and elaborate as time goes on. That people are using these tunnels to mainstream science and scholars don't know their purpose, but they think that it was to hide from oncoming, armies and enemies that are coming into your territory, to sort of hunker down under the ground. But alternative theories suggest that they were hiding from these cataclysmic events, these meteor showers that they knew were regular events. We go through these meteor showers, the Perseid meteor shower and the Taurian meteor shower. There's We go through these meteor showers. Earth does. Uh, all the time. We're on a regular path through these meteor and asteroid systems that pelt us with these space rocks, and as geology has shown us, often with catastrophic results. There are thoughts that the Great Flood was started because there's a younger Dryas theory, if you want to look into it, suggests that there's a series of meteors that crashed into the planet near the North Pole, and it immediately vaporized the snow and the ice and everything and turned it into liquid water, which then rushed down, causing a cataclysmic flood event globally fairly quickly. This happened, and so that's where the Great Flood story possibly comes to be. But um, there's just this idea that we need to be prepared for these cataclysms, even though we haven't had one in a while. There's also these solar storms and solar events, these coronal mass ejections that come out of the sun. The sun belches out these giant cosmic, waves that shoot it out in all directions, and if they hit the planet, it can often have uh, uh, cataclysmic results, right? It severely affects our magnetosphere and our atmosphere around the planet. The last time a major one came, there it was called the Carrington event. If you're interested to look up the Carrington event, the X level solar events are the highest level of solar event that can affect our planet, and it happened in the 1800s. This Carrington event, a mass solar ejection came and hit the planet, and it wiped out all of the telegraph and the electronics. Now, electricity was fairly new, and the telegraph system was fairly new at that time, but that was the height of technology in the 1800s, and it completely wiped it out. So, if you can imagine, if one of those solar events hit us now today, it would be catastrophic because we rely so heavily on not just the electric power grid, but the internet as well, which goes hand in hand with that, right? And so I think that we're severely ill-equipped, not just for a bad player, across the globe to take down our power system, but there's a lot of evidence showing that it happens on a fairly regular basis on this planet, where these ejections hit the planet, and it could completely reset us. Now, going back to the Stone Age, I think is a bit dramatic if it knocked out our power grid, but I think there's a lot of us out there. I'm speaking for myself, I suppose, but I've heard other people talking out there in these communities of ours that how nice it would be to just go back to a simpler time. How nice it would be to not be so addicted to our phones and always on Instagram and social media and this constant need to, not be able to sit with our own thoughts, to be able to sit quietly without reaching for a screen to feed the voice in our head, to feed our mind, right? To to learn to quiet our minds. I don't know if humans are meant for this level of stimulation that we have in the modern age, and I wonder if that's going to be a part of the reset as well. As maybe it's for our own good, right? Maybe it can be seen as a blessing to perhaps lose power or the internet for an extended period of time slash indefinitely. um, and I know that it would cause great chaos, and I'm not a proponent of that. I know that it would throw a lot of chaos on the planet, right? But I think that if it does happen, which it is likely, not just from I just think that there's a high likelihood that it can happen. I think it would be a good thing, right, to go back to simpler times, to go back to real food, real agriculture, not these giant corporations running everything, and having clean food and clean water, and just sort of going back to the good old days, right? To going back to smaller communities. I as I'm looking into these ancient cultures, there's often talk of, like I said, the gods, the higher beings, the divine don't like it when there's too many humans on the planet, right? You can speculate, and as many people have, as I have, as to whether or not that's true, or the mechanisms behind that. But the stories say that too many people on the planet is a bad thing. I think that we're meant to, as a species, live in smaller groups, as we had for most of humanity, and I think that there's just an unhealthiness being around too many people, too many energies, too many auras, right? Too many other people's frequencies. I think we're meant to be in smaller, tight knit groups, villages, even, right? And when you start getting into these mega cities, especially like Tokyo or New York City or whatever, it's too much. It's too much energetically speaking. I think it's too much um, for our system. Our human avatar, I think, is overstimulated, and I don't think it's a good thing for us. I don't think it's, and I don't, I shouldn't say there is no good or bad. I don't think it's ideal for our biological system to be inundated with this much stimulation all the time, and not just mental stimulation and Netflix and TV and screens and tablets and noise and music, and there always has to be something on in the background, or I always have to have something to satisfy my mind that I haven't learned how to focus yet, right? Because I'm just speaking for myself. Like I hadn't learned to focus my mind at all. I didn't even know what that meant. Right? This is my life. I always have to be distracted. I don't know how to sit with my own thoughts. I don't know how to be silent for more than 10 seconds. That makes me very uncomfortable. I had to train my mind to do all of those things and found great peace and tranquility in doing so. That's why I talk about it. But I think it might be a good anecdote to modern society and all of the stress and anxiety that comes with all of these things, right? Um, the need to grind, and to succeed, and to compare yourself to your neighbors and to what society's standards or standards for men or societal standards for women or what your parents think you should or shouldn't be doing or your church or whatever, right? I don't think we're meant to be connected to everybody in this way. Perhaps, right? Or perhaps this is just growing pains, getting over that. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe this is just we're pushing through the difficult part, and maybe we are meant to be interconnected in a way that our ancestors may have been. And I'm talking about in like a psychic way, connected psychically, our unconsciousness and our consciousness all connected in some um, psychic way, for lack of better words. Um, Maybe that is part of the interconnectedness rather than the separation that we are heading towards. But I think there just needs to be a component. I'm striving for more simplicity in my life. I find that I'm more content and peaceful when I am not checking my phone all the time. When I take these breaks from social media or breaks from when I go on a walk, I leave my phone at home or leave my phone in the car. I don't take it with me. And at first, it's a little jarring. It's like, wait, where's my security blanket, my cell phone? But then I quickly get over it and I feel better when I don't feel the need to take a picture of every beautiful flower on my walk on my Instagram, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy it, but it's about balance. And I feel more at peace when I let go of that technology. Nothing wrong with technology, but again, it's about balance. And so I find myself yearning for these small communities of like-minded people, right? I mean, ideally, I started a cult of misfits as just a place where like-minded people can come together and just sort of talk about these, quote unquote weird topics that the masses don't quite understand or can connect with emotionally or spiritually or whatever, and that's okay. But I'm at a place in my life where I'm looking for more simplicity and less complexity, right? Detaching myself from the hubbub, the go, right? Because nobody's going to do that for me, right? I would often shake my fist at like, well, why does society have to be like this? Why does it have to be so fast? Why do I have to feel the pressure of all of to do this and to do that and to perform and to be good enough according to who? My peers, my parents, society? Like, who am I performing for? I had to ask myself this and work through it. And the truth is, I was trying to perform for lots of people, trying to impress lots of people. And I learned to step away from that and detach from that and realize I'm not here to impress anybody. I just want to be peaceful. Leave me alone. If you want to join me and be peaceful, come on, join my circle, right? And so I'm looking to harmonize and maybe and create a community like this. First, creating this community and this peacefulness in my own heart, right, and my own mind, figuring out what I don't like and what I do want for my life, and about how to detach from that and how to shift from that and how to start going down a path of what I do want, right? And the universe will return that in kind. The universe will realign itself to you and your desires. Our minds are so powerful. Our creativity, our beliefs, our intentions are so incredibly powerful. And when you set your mind on something or set your intention towards something and start heading in that direction, the universe will reply in kind. It will realign itself to you. This is what I found in my own life. Aligning towards your desires, the life that you want to live. I often found that the universe will give me, like when you go to the ice cream shop, you get to try a couple of samples. Try the cherry, try the bubblegum, try the chocolate, and then decide what you like. So I found that the universe will often give me options, put me into these scenarios and situations where I get to take a little sample. Do I like this? Do I not like this? Is this what I want for my life? Is this not what I want for my life? And to adjust accordingly. And to communicate that with the universe, communicate that with God or my higher self or my spiritual team. And to say, you know what? I don't like that. Let's shift. Let's shift our focus to over here now. And the universe will respond in kind. And you'll start to get more things in your life like, ooh, yes, I like that. More of that, please. More of that, please. Thank you. Thank you. Being thankful for these options and opportunities to sample things that I like and don't like. Because so often in my own life, I had never thought about these things before. What do I like? What do I want to do for my life? What kind of people bring me joy? Right? And just feeling it out. There's no right or wrong answers in this process, despite what your significant other or society or family might tell you. And they will. Yeah. Thank you for your opinion. I'm living my own life. Yes, I know that you think I'm on the wrong path. Thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your perspective that I didn't ask for, but thank you for your opinion. Yep, cool perspective. I'm living my life this way. Thank you very much. Letting go of other people's perspectives on you. Who cares what they think? I'm no longer trying to impress people anymore because I had worked through that. I'm no longer trying to convince people or live up to their standards. I'm living my own life now. It's more free that way. So when I talk about these cataclysms, I don't say it from a place of fear, and I hope that it doesn't induce that in you, because I do believe that everything that's meant to happen is meant to happen. If we're meant to have a cataclysm, we're meant to have a cataclysm. That's just the way that it goes. And rather than going into it fearfully, I've seen in my own life that I'm always taken care of. My loved ones are always taken care of. There's a divine hand leading me and guiding me, even through the zombie apocalypse. Right? I went through a phase where I went through a prepper phase, and I'm not here to judge preppers or wag my fingers or anything, but I went through a prepper phase, and I tried to tell myself it wasn't out of fear. It was just out of being pragmatic and practical, and well, you know, things happen, and it's good to be prepared. So I hear that, but also I had to work through that a lot because I was wondering if I was just tricking myself, gaslighting myself, saying like, no, I'm not scared. But at the core of it, I was scared. I was stocking up on provisions because I wanted to make sure, I wanted to have control of the situation. Ding, 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 red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Anytime I try to control something, that always causes discomfort in my own life. And so anytime I try to control something, it's just like, red alert, red alert, readjust, readjust. And so I was doing that to try to control the situation so that I could be prepared just in case. But I feel like the universe often has a way of shaking us up, right? You can try to prepare all you want. That's real cute, but then like you'll have a massive event happen in your life. Well, you'll lose whatever it is you're clinging on to. So if you're clinging on to, I'm speaking for myself. When I was clinging on to these safety and emergency provisions that I was stocking up on, I was clinging to them very tightly. In retrospect, I had to work through it, but I was clinging to them very tightly. If somebody had broken into my home and stolen all of my provisions, I would have reacted out of fear, quite negatively. I would have freaked out. That's because I was clinging on to them. I have a litmus test for myself is if I lost this thing, would it bother me? And if the answer is yes, then I'm attached to it. Let that shit go. Would it bother me if I lost this? If Oftentimes I find that the universe will remove that from my life just to teach me a lesson. Like the thing that I cling on to the most is the thing that I'm going to lose. So if you think if you're clinging on to it real tight, it's probably going to go away. And it's not to as punishment. It's not Yahweh wagging his finger at you. It's meant to help you grow and learn, to help you detach. Because at the end of the day, if I have faith and complete trust in a divine hand to lead me and guide me and take care of me and my loved ones at any given time, then it doesn't matter if I have provisions or not. They will be provided for me one way or another. I like to play chicken with the universe. Like, okay, let's do this thing. And I run straight at it. Like, let's see what happens, bro. Right? Being more brave, being more confident in this divine process of saying, you know what? I'm going to have no provisions. I'm not going to stock up because I know that if there is a cataclysm or if things take a left turn or the shit hits the fan or whatever, then I'm going to be taken care of one way or another. Then I'll be led and guided in the right direction at the appropriate time, as I always am, as the good Lord has shown me always happens. So again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have provisions or that preppers are idiots. None of those things, right? It's very pragmatic. I understand it. I'm not against it at all. It makes sense, right? But for me, I'm on this path of freedom, freeing myself from the fear of losing my provisions, that I'm not going to have enough when the cataclysm comes or, everything turns upside down. And it's not to say I won't stock up on anything or be prepared in any way, or to be ignorant of how the world works, or to be ignorant of things that could actually happen in our lives, right? But it's about going into it without fear, going into it with faith and trust, going into it with belief in this higher power, belief in the system and the process and this divine process, right? I have to remind myself of these things whenever I'm going through these choppy waters or rough roads or whatever life is throwing at me that is difficult and challenging and scary and difficult. These are the foundations that I remind myself of as I'm going through the choppy waters, as I'm scared out of my mind. I have to remind myself that it's not going to last forever. I'm going to come through on the other side of this thing, better and stronger for it, bruised, but better and stronger for it. And then ultimately looking back on it and being thankful for that process, right? How many times in my life have I had these difficult situations and challenges that I don't think I can get through? They're insane. I don't know how this is going to work out. And then in retrospect, I look back and I think like, okay, now I can see why that all had to happen that way. Now I can look back and be thankful that I went through that rough patch because now I'm in a better place. Now I'm, um, you know, living my dream life, living my best life. So I've shifted now and I've rather than waiting until the end of the ordeal to look back and be thankful, I've learned to live in the now, live in the moment rather than looking backwards, live in the now in the moment and say, you know what, I'm thankful for this now. I'm thankful for this fire that I'm going through that is burning and hurting me right now, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. That's challenging me. And I'm learning to be more thankful of it in the moment, right? I find a lot of strength in that. And I find that it helps me to get through these difficult moments, knowing that based on my own past, just analyzing my own life, realizing that, yeah, I'm going to get through this. Every single one of those moments that I thought I'm not going to get through it, well, I did. I'm still here. I'm alive. Hi. Right? How am I going to get through that? How am I going to pay that bill? How is this ever going to work out? Well, it always does. Right? I'm alive. I believe that we're only given things that we can handle. Just as another opportunity to show ourselves that we can do anything. Right? Now instead of telling myself or listening to that voice in my head telling me I can't do it, I just laugh heartily with my hands on my hips, like in my Superman pose, and I just say, oh, no, 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 no. We can do anything. We don't talk like that anymore. We can literally do anything. And so can you. End transmission.